They say the pen is mightier than the sword, but what they don't say is that the sword couldn't have been invented without the pen. Or a stylus. They used the stylus back then. Writing's role in the dawn of civilization is just as important as the development of agriculture. In fact, it kind of springs from agriculture because they needed to keep track of what they produced. They wrote it down, and those pictures would eventually turn into writing systems. In this episode, we're going to put the oldest writing systems ever found in context, ending with the first ever epic poem, the Sumerian Epic of Gilgamesh. But let's start even further back, from cave paintings. The oldest ones we found are about 20 to 40,000 years old. And to put that in context, that is about the same time that Neanderthals went extinct. Coincidence? I don't know, maybe. Most people just think of them as paintings, a mirror into the mind of what Stone Age people saw. But some new research may show that these paintings might not just be doodles. The paintings are often accompanied by dots and other symbols, and what's even more interesting is that some of these same symbols appear in different caves on different continents all over the world. A research scientist, Genevieve von Petzinger, has done some initial research comparing and documenting these symbols. Unfortunately, we don't have enough evidence yet to draw concrete conclusions, but that's super interesting and it would be a pretty big deal if that was true. Okay, enough about cave paintings. Where would we see the first actual writing systems? We're going to focus on only 6 cultures. Vinča and Minoa in Europe, the Indus Valley Civilization and China in Asia, and Sumer and Egypt in Mesopotamia. But let's start in Europe, circa 6000 BCE. Discovered inscribed on a cache of items near present-day Romania, the Vinča symbols are some of the earliest evidence of writing anywhere. What's also interesting is these are some of the same symbols that appear in the cave paintings, and their influence can be seen later on several European languages. Although they haven't been translated and there's a lot of debate about it, and we're not sure if they're real, so we're just going to move on. Still in Europe, just south of where the Vinča symbols were found, is the island of Crete. Here would be the first shimmer of Greek culture, the Minoan culture, circa 3000 BCE. As a reference, that is about the same time Stonehenge was being built in the modern-day UK. Minoa holds the credit for the oldest known writing system of Europe, the Cretan Hieroglyphs and Linear A. This culture is so old, it's ancient history for the ancient Greeks. I have been fascinated with the story of Minoa and its demise since I heard about it in college. Ever heard of a labyrinth? Icarus flying too close to the sun? A minotaur? The human with a bull head? Minotaur, get it? They're all from Minoa. It's way too much to get into here, and it's gonna get its own episode. Moving on to Asia, around 4000 BCE, the Indus Valley Civilization is one of the oldest civilizations to dawn. Although we haven't been able to translate their writing, the Indus Script. But they definitely had their own symbols, and wait, what's that right there? Is that a swastika? Okay, hold on. Before you cancel me, I am not promoting the use of this. These are ancient symbols. Way before that racist genocidal asshole made it a symbol of hate, dozens of cultures used it as a symbol of good and good fortune for thousands of years before Europeans even invented writing or farming. Master race my It was a popular symbol. I'm not saying we should start using it again or anything. Now you just know a little more history. Anyway, moving on. On to China. East Asia had a long history of pictographs and written symbols dating further back than the Vinča symbols, as far back as 7000 BCE. But the oldest full text we've ever found is on the oracle bones, circa 1250 BCE. It is the direct ancestor of more than a dozen East Asian writing systems, including Chinese and Japanese. But the oldest writing systems are in the Middle East, at least the ones we've translated and understood so far. And they would be Sumerian Cuneiform and Egyptian hieroglyphs. Sumer and Egypt would both come into their Bronze Ages around 3300 BCE, but cuneiform pictograph symbols start around 4000, and so too would early hieroglyphs. They both would grow more advanced over the next 2000 years into full writing systems. These clay tokens were used to denote amounts of livestock or crops circa 3300 BCE. The oldest cuneiform tablets found with full syllabic elements, which is what linguists like to use to denote full writing systems, date to around 2800 BCE. And the earliest full sentence of Egyptian hieroglyphs were found on this seal of the tomb of Seth-Peribsen, dating to 2700 BCE. Sumer would write poems, and eventually several would be compiled into the first known epic poem, called the Epic of Gilgamesh, around 2100 BCE. This mythological story about one of the ancient heroic Sumerian kings would inspire later legendary heroes like Hercules and influence numerous ancient literary works like the Bible and the Greek epics, the Odyssey and the Iliad, among many others. But the Epic of Gilgamesh isn't even the oldest text. Egypt holds that honor so far. Dating from 2400 BCE, the pyramid texts are inscribed on the walls of Pharaoh's burial chambers inside the pyramids. In fact, it's not quite known whether Egyptian writing inspired cuneiform or whether cuneiform inspired hieroglyphics. Cuneiform is generally credited with being the oldest writing system, but when you put into context how close these two civilizations were in proximity and how close in time their writing achievements were, does it really even make any sense to say which came first? Especially with how murky the dates of prehistory can be. Again, those are just a few of the first writing systems. But one thing to keep in mind, all of these writing inventions, as impressive as they are, as important as they are, were only used by a tiny minority of people for thousands of years. Usually just the upper classes and religious castes. And they were almost always men. Although, fun fact, the first author to be credited ever was a woman, Enheduanna, a priestess of ancient Sumer. Being able to read and write has only recently become common. And when I say recently, I mean really recently. Like in the last few hundred years recently. In 1800 CE, only 12% of the world was literate. And by 2016, it was 86%. It's crazy. I hope you enjoyed the look at this dawn of writing. Make sure you subscribe for the next episodes, where we'll dive into each of these civilizations' rise and fall until the mysterious Bronze Age collapse. Thanks for watching.